A new president in 2016. It's guaranteed, at least constitutionally. So rather than wait around to see who it's going to be, today on Trifecta, we're going to build the nominee. It's the new Lego president, and I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, joined now by Bill Whittle and Tammy Bruce, who is accepting the honor of a Trifecta appearance on behalf of the gallivanting Stephen Green. This is a three-part Trifecta, and right now, we're going to assemble the requisite Lego blocks of character, experience, attitude, and backstory. In episode 2, we'll build the candidates' policy modules, and then in our members-only finale, we'll construct the battle space. We invite you to dump the Lego box on the floor right now and play along at home. There's only one rule: don't mention any names of living politicians, including the current president. Now, Bill Whittle, you're the story master, so let me ask you. We are going to have a new president, January 20th, 2017.
Presumably.
What is this person who is going to be our new president? What is this person doing right now? And what's his or her backstory?
That's a superb question. You know, one of the remarkable statistics, you know, they're always doing all these data minings about what the population wants to see and what they like and what they don't like. And one of the problems, I think, with politics today is that so many existing representatives and candidates just to get into this feedback loop with these study groups and these focus groups, and they want to kind of tailor themselves to where the soccer moms are. And I think that's precisely the wrong attitude. I think that gets us absolutely nothing. I don't think you win by following. I think you win by leading. And people say, well, you need to be more liberal, you need to be more centrist. No, you need to make a case to bring people over to your philosophy, whatever that may be. So what's interesting about your question, Scott, is that of all the people on the horizon that have the highest poll numbers, you said not to mention any names, but I won't. But the one person who wins in a landslide, favorabilities are 79, 80% something, is unnamed generic conservative candidate, right? So I'm serious as I can be. I actually believe that the next president of the United States, we probably don't know of very well right now. I don't think that means they're an unknown person, but I don't think they're on the political spectrum, and hopefully they're out there generating some wealth, or maybe they're a general that's that's seeing trying to win a conflict someplace. But I think somebody from outside of the Beltway in this era of absolute incompetence and spying on the American people, I think that person has to come from way outside that little cyst of that wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Well, now, Tammy Bruce, if I'm not mistaken, you used to lead a local chapter of the National Organization for Women. So I'd like you to reach into your Lego collection and show us the kind of demographic slices, or at least demographic appeal, that you'd like to see in our next presidential nominee.
Well, you know, the special interest groups are important, and even the founders recognized that there was, in the balance of, especially with a large republic, that special interest groups and the battle within that framework on interests was very important in keeping the balance here in the country. What that didn't mean was that a president or important politician should pander to those special interest groups. I think certain things have to be done socially and other things need to be done politically. So when it comes to what the next president or what the perfect president should be able to do is really appeal overall in an overarching dynamic when it comes to what's important to all of us. Find those common levels like economic freedom, the ability to have faith in the future. But all that comes down into being able to make the choices that best suit us. And in order to be able to do that, because that, you know, the American dream is not one thing, right? It's different for each one of us. So if I were to be advising a candidate, it's about appealing to the overall dynamic that allows every family to make choices that best suit them. For some people, it's being able to work at a job and be at home, though, a lot of time with their kids and have a big family. For other people, it's working 18 hours a day and getting a mansion. For others, it's about travel. So I think that what the next president needs to do is recognize that there's competing special interests, but not allowing him or herself to be pulled into that maelstrom. And it's what you and Bill have noted is this notion of being able to be above the fray, of being able to represent something larger, and not for people to follow, but as a reminder about who we are. There is a particular politician who never asked us to follow him, but allowed us to stand on his shoulders. And of course, it's President Reagan. And that's what has to be articulated, because that's inherently what the American people want.
Well, now, Bill, politicians are never as clean and sparkly as we would like. But since you can run Legos through the dishwasher to clean them up, talk to me about the character traits that you'd like to see in our sort of homemade president here.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. You're not completely right when you say politicians aren't as clean and sparkly as we'd like them to be, because I know a politician who's as clean and sparkly as I'd like him to be, and that's you, Scotty. You know, the great thing about watching you run in your home district in the county and so on is you just have a lot of integrity, you got a lot of soul. You go out there and you convert people one by one. You just talk to them, and you don't bring ideology to the table, and you don't bring the sense that I'm right and you're wrong to the table. You talk to people about what they want. You talk to them about what they think government should do for them, and if you disagree that perhaps something that they want from the government is out of the bounds of the government, you'll explain to them why, and then you'll listen to what they have to say, and maybe they'll change their mind, and maybe you'll change yours. But I think of all the things that I admire most about you, and the primary quality that I would like to see in a national leader is a sense of humility. Now, that's a hard thing to combine with the kind of competence and drive, ambition, and skill set you have to be the President of the United States. And to weather this kind of storm, you have to have a strong sense of ego and a strong sense of being right, or else you wouldn't be in it. But when I look at the great presidents in American history, I think the one quality I find in all of them is a sense of fundamental humility, and that cuts across party lines. I think Harry Truman had a genuine sense of humility, and that's why I think Harry Truman could understand what Joseph Stalin was in a way that Roosevelt never could, because Roosevelt was so full of ego. Millions of times he basically said, "Oh, I can handle Joseph Stalin. I'm Franklin Delano Roosevelt." Truman didn't come to the office with that humility. Calvin Coolidge, I think the most underrated president in our history, had a fundamental sense of humility. Abraham Lincoln had a profound sense of humility. When Abraham Lincoln was on the train leaving Springfield to go and try and save this Union, which was seceding before he even went to Washington, he said, "I leave you now, my friends. I don't know if I'll ever return. I leave now without God's help. I cannot possibly succeed. With God's help, I cannot possibly fail." And when you finally come down to humility, I don't think you can beat the father of our country, who was called on repeatedly by his own people to accept the title of king and turned it down, who didn't want to serve a first term, didn't want to serve a second, and refused to serve a third. George Washington was the man who made the decision that we refer to the president as Mr. President instead of Your Excellency. That fundamental humility, to wrap up, is a sign of great character strength, and sadly lacking in Washington, and especially in these last 5 years.
Nobody does it like Bill Whittle. Tammy, as you mentioned before, you're a big Ronald Reagan fan. What do you think the elements of the presidential attitude should be that you're going to build into this ideal chief executive?
Well, I'm going to disagree a little bit with Bill. And I think it depends on the environment that the president's coming into. And when you're looking at a world at war, and you're looking at a nation that is adrift, one of those qualities certainly has to be a confidence that people can look to and trust, that you know it's not going to fail. But confidence doesn't have to be offensive. Confidence can be this kind of thing where you know, it's like, I suppose, anyone who's in charge, that you want to impress them, but you know if you do a bad job or if you're not up to snuff, that you're going to get that really disappointed look, and that alone should crush you. That you're looking at a dynamic, especially with Reagan, and the issue of character, and what the founders thought of most, that was most important, and that was virtue. Now, you can have a wide variety of personality characteristics, but virtue is key, is the nature of understanding your role in light of your position and what this nation means. The knowledge that a certain kind of decency has to prevail, but the virtue of understanding what has to be accomplished and the willingness to do it to save this nation. And that does include, of course, going to war, understanding this nation is the best nation on earth and is humanity's last best hope. So it's an issue of confidence, an issue of virtue, an issue of a kind of a self-esteem that translates to other people and is even catching. Also a sense of oneself separate from narcissism, that you're going to be able to understand that the American people are in fact fabulous, even though they're completely different from you. The thing infecting politicians now, and the next president has to be void of this, is a contempt for the average person. You know, this is what Americans want to see, and it's not pandering to us. It's a recognition, my goodness, that but the wide variety of people that are out in this country have in fact saved this planet, have saved humanity twice in the humility and in the decency of their own basic lives. We do want someone who represents in a way ourselves, but 10 feet, 100 feet tall. And I think that that's the reflection that we can look to that individual, that man or woman, and say, yeah, we recognize that person, and they're everything that we know we can be and that we want to be. So it's these positive virtues, but it's also, as we saw with people like Thatcher and Reagan, is this willingness and an understanding with our foes that we will go wherever we have to save our family. And that's the kind of thing that you don't want to cross. You don't want a president who, you figure is either going to make the country a laughingstock, or that no one takes seriously, or that there is no fear involved. And I think that love and fear is key in leadership. And I think that with someone like Reagan, the world feared him. And of course, ultimately, in the end, when it comes to the freedom that was accomplished, the love was quite apparent as well.
You want more of that kind of action? You can go over to TammyBruce.com and listen to Tammy's radio show. Well, if you're waiting for Superman at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, it's like waiting for Godot. He's not coming. If you won't settle for anything less than pristine character in a skeleton-free closet, then let he who is without sin cast the first campaign announcement. We know that humans bear the scars of a cosmic fall. So, should we tolerate bad character and a shady past? Evaluating character is not that simple. And the real story of a man or woman is almost never what you hear in the news. All I'm asking is that you take the jeweler's loop out of your ocular socket and get the big picture of the candidate. Look at where he or she has been and where they're going. But most importantly, elect a cadre of the best constitutional congressmen you can find to provide constraints. That way, you minimize the harm, just in case you misjudged the president. For Bill Whittle, Tammy Bruce, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.